Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. According to historians' research, many of the female characters in Water Margin are fictional. But Li Shishi was a real person. She was a famous courtesan in the capital city of Bianjing during the Song dynasty, known for her talent and beauty, and was regarded as a legend of her time. Li Shishi's fame spread throughout the Song dynasty. She was not only admired for her unparalleled beauty but also attracted the attention of many intellectuals and scholars. Prominent poets like Zhou Bangyan, Zhang Xian, Yan Jidao, and Qin Guan all wrote poems in her honor. Even Emperor Huizong of the Song dynasty, Zhao Ji, disguised himself and ventured out of the palace just to have a secret meeting with her. However, despite her former glory, Li Shishi's fate ended tragically. Her life was filled with both legend and misfortune. Li Shishi was born into an ordinary family. Her father, Wang Yin, ran a dyeing business. When she was just 3 years old, an old monk patted her head and predicted that she would have a connection with Buddhism. Though it was merely a casual remark, Wang Yin firmly believed it and named her Shishi. The character Shi was a respectful term used for Buddhist disciples at the time, and Wang Yin may have hoped that the Buddha would bless his daughter with a peaceful life. However, fate struck her a heavy blow. Li Shishi's father was falsely accused of offending powerful figures and was wrongfully killed. Her mother, unable to support her, eventually left, and the young Li Shishi was left to wander the streets. It wasn't long before a brothel owner, Li Yun, took her in and brought her into the brothel to learn the arts of singing and dancing, renaming her Li Shishi. Li Yun, a businesswoman who ran the brothel, not only gave Li Shishi a new home but also devoted herself to nurturing her talents. Li Shishi was naturally beautiful and exceptionally talented, and it wasn't long before her fame spread far and wide, making her a focus of attention in Bianjing. At the time, the Prime Minister's son, Yan Jidao, upon hearing of Li Shishi's beauty and talent, visited her. Although Li Shishi was still young, her beauty and elegance were already otherworldly, deeply impressing Yan Jidao. He couldn't help but write a poem for her. Faraway mountains, brows long and thin, delicate waist like a willow's spin, dressed in spring's first breeze, standing still. A smile, worth 1,000 gold, is all it can fill. Returning to Fengqing soon, tell the brothel girls with a tune. Though they see all Yingchuan's flowers bloom, none compares to Shishi's bright room. Yan Jidao, a gifted poet renowned for his graceful and subtle style, wrote this verse, further elevating Li Shishi's reputation and solidifying her place as one of the most prominent figures in Bianjing. Additionally, Qin Guan, a disciple of the famous poet Su Shi, also deeply admired Li Shishi's beauty and talent. It said that Li Shishi reciprocated his feelings, and they had a brief romantic relationship. However, due to strict family rules that forbade any courtesans from entering, Qin Guan was unable to redeem her, despite his wishes. Soon after, he had to leave the capital for a government post in another region, and they were uncertain when they would meet again. On their last night together, Li Shishi knew she could not stop him from leaving. She said to Qin Guan, "Let me sing you a new song tonight." She began to play the pipa, and her song was filled with sorrow. At first, her singing was calm, but as her emotions overwhelmed her, her tears flowed uncontrollably, and her music became increasingly erratic. Qin Guan sat silently, unable to do anything but weep with guilt. That night, Qin Guan left behind a poem to express his deep affection and regret for their parting. Years passed, tonight I see Shishi. Her cheeks, flushed with wine's red plea. Half-rolled curtains, a faint light outside. Dew on the grass, smoke rising to collide. Her hairpins undone, leaning, unwilling to rise. Tears falling, singing a new rhyme with sighs. This poem captured the scene of their farewell, Li Shishi's drunken face, the half-open curtain, the dim light, the dew outside, and her singing that became unhinged with emotion. The verse conveyed the sorrow and reluctance of parting. When Qin Guan left the capital, he did so quietly, without allowing Li Shishir to see him off. After losing her beloved Qin Guan, Li Shishir fell into a period of despair. However, as a courtesan, she could not afford to dwell in sorrow. She pretended to be unaffected and continued to receive guests. Li Shishir once thought she would never fall in love again until she met Zhou Bangyan. Zhou Bangyan, also a talented poet and skilled in music, was highly regarded in the capital. The courtesans in the city prided themselves on singing Zhou Bangyan's poetry. On one occasion, Zhou Bangyan encountered Li Shishir, and after conversing with her, he felt that not only was she exceptionally talented, but her interests also aligned with his. He was deeply attracted by her artistry and elegance. In one of his poems, he wrote about his feelings upon meeting Li Shishir for the first time. The powder fades, she waits in a new, simple dress. A good temperament, her natural grace above the rest. This poem praised Li Shishir's natural elegance, different from others. Though they were meeting for the first time, it felt as though they had known each other for years, and their connection was immediate. Zhou Bangyan and Li Shishir grew closer over time, from sharing poems and songs to developing deep feelings for each other. Despite this, Zhou Bangyan remained restrained, knowing his position and responsibilities, and was unable to make the same promises as Qin Guan had. Li Shishir understood Zhou Bangyan's feelings but, due to her low social status, could not change her situation. She could only cherish each moment she spent with him. One evening, as usual, Zhou Bangyan came to visit Li Shishir. She prepared fresh oranges for him, peeled them, and chatted with him about the tuning of musical instruments. Zhou Bangyan, skilled in music, easily adjusted the instruments. As the night grew late, Zhou Bangyan prepared to leave. Li Shishir quietly asked, "It's already past the third watch, and the curfew is on. Where will you stay tonight?" Li Shishir gently urged him to stay, but Zhou Bangyan still hesitated. Seeing this, Li Shishir no longer hid her feelings and boldly said, "It's cold, and the road is slippery. Riding a horse could easily lead to a fall. Few people go out at this time. Why don't you stay?" Upon hearing these words, Zhou Bangyan was shaken, both surprised by her frankness and touched by her concern. He was well aware of her feelings for him and understood that he could not let her down. Thus, he wrote a poem to capture that warm, moving moment. The knife cuts like water, the wu salt whiter than snow, delicate hands break open a new orange. The brocade curtains first warm, beast smoke rises without end, sitting face to face, adjusting the flute. Low voice asking who is staying the night, the city already at the third watch. The horse is slippery, the frost thick, better not leave, it's rare to find anyone out. In this poem, Zhou Bangyan recorded the warmth of that night, Li Shishir's care and thoughtfulness, which deeply touched him. At that moment, he decided to do everything in his power to redeem her, to free her from the brothel and give her a better life. However, as the most famous courtesan in the capital, admired for both her talent and beauty, Li Shishir's fame reached even Emperor Huizong Zhaoji. He soon decided to take her for himself, keeping her in a high tower and surrounded by guards to protect her day and night. From then on, Li Shishir could no longer come and go as freely as before. In the face of supreme power, an individual's fate seems small and powerless. The bond between Li Shishir and Zhou Bangyan ended abruptly, and they never met again. Emperor Huizong Zhaoji was deeply infatuated with Li Shishir, so much so that he was not content with seeing her only occasionally. In order to be with her more often, he ordered the digging of a secret tunnel that led directly to her residence. Whenever he wished to see her, he would disguise himself as an ordinary scholar and quietly enter through the tunnel. But fate's turn came suddenly. The Jin army marched south, and the capital was taken. Emperor Huizong and his son were captured. In the midst of the chaos, Li Shishir, along with the fleeing refugees, crossed the Yangtze River and wandered in the Jiangnan region, living a very hard life. She was no longer the graceful and talented courtesan, but a helpless wanderer. In Hunan, Li Shishir accidentally met the poet Lu Zihui. By this time, she was over 60 and had to sing on the streets for a living. Despite her age, her voice was still enchanting. Even more so in its maturity. Upon seeing her, Lu Zihui could not help but recall the days when she was the sensation of the capital, and he was filled with many emotions. In times of turmoil, an individual's fate is like floating weeds, regardless of how glorious it once was. Ultimately unable to escape the torrent of history. Li Shishir, once loved by an emperor, now had to beg on the streets to survive. The wheel of fate had stripped her of everything she once had. Lu Zihui, deeply moved by the rise and fall of Li Shishir's life, wrote a poem expressing his lament over her fate. The bustling affairs of the imperial carriage are saddening. Li Shishir, now old, passes through Hunan. Her clothes and the sandalwood board have no color. One song once moved the emperor. The poem reflects how, in the heyday of peace, Li Shishir was like a magnificent painting, captivating all who saw her. Yet, with the passing of time, her voice could no longer attract the emperor's favor, and the traces of age had stolen away her former brilliance. Some historians have commented that Li Shishir's life was full of ups and downs. The former glory had become a distant memory, and her final fate, whether the result of fate's mockery or the cruelty of time, remains a subject of deep regret. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone and see you in the next time.